Welcome back. Here's where you left off. Spoilers ahead for Expeditionary Force Book 18 Gateway by Craig Alanson.
We finally finished Book 18, and we finished it in a way that we both agreed that the ending was anticlimactic, right? And the question both of us are asking, is this book the same level as the rest of the series? That's the question I want to ask you, actually.
I actually, you know what? It's funny. I would say that you and I went into this book actually believing it was the last book of the series, with the exception of Scarandum, and information came out, and we're just going to say this, that this is not fully confirmed that we know of, but we believe there's going to be another 3 to 4 books that are going to come out over the next few years, between 2025 and 2028, which includes a couple more of the X-Force and then a Scarandum book, which we are thrilled about. We are absolutely thrilled about. However, having said that, when we were reading through this book, I was kind of looking at it through the lens of, this is how he's going to wrap up the X-Force series. And so I kind of had a different thought in my mind about how I felt about the writing that was going on and the pace of the book. Now that I know that there's other stuff going to come out, and we know what the ending is and so forth, I actually don't have as much criticism to say about the book itself. It is a very true Craig Alanson book for X-Force. It is a mixture of plotting, a mixture of Joe and Skippy fighting, a mixture of sort of downtime, uptime fighting. And I think for the twists of the book that we got, the main one being Nagatha's back and she's now an Elder AI, and the ending, which we have 2 Elder starships in the galaxy, I think is a good overall book.
I agree to everything you said, right? We even had we thought we had another character loss, but she came back. That was awesome. And
I totally called that, by the way.
Yes, it's kind of funny though, because when we thought her character died, it was what's her name? Oh my gosh, Frey. Thank you. Oh man, I blanked out on that one pretty fast. Frey. I was like, oh man, the character died very uneventful. She did her job, but how she died, I'm like, we talked about it 3 episodes ago, that I can't believe they killed the character. She died in a way that it's not a very X-Force. It's not very piratey way that she died. So it's kind of like disappointed. But when she came back, I'm like, well, I was completely wrong in that one. That's once that you'll get that one wrong once a year, there, my friend. So that was very interesting, and the way, like what you said, the pace itself. Both of us thought that this is the last book. We thought, right? Because there's already inkling and there's already rumors that's not, but the pace. Knowing that this is not the last book, just 2 more books, the pacing makes a lot of sense. The pacing, the way it was written, I have no problems with any of that. It's very typical X-Force. Very, as you said, there's internal fighting between Joe and Skippy, arguments, downtime. There's some characters came back as a guest characters, so that was really nice. But for me, I felt like it was dragging a bit. I felt like it was in a way that it's the same thing over and over again, right? And I don't mind that at all if it's
you're kind of like that though. You kind of feel that way about some book series, and so when you say that, I'm not surprised that you make that statement. But the one caveat I'm going to put on that, and the interesting point that I want to make is, before we knew that this was not going to be the final book, the interesting thing that I had is that in the beginning of the book, if you remember, Dave and Jates were in there, and they were doing their own thing, and so we never heard from him again.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That some of the characters came back as guest characters, but there's really no substance to it. It feels like it was just like, hey, I need to reach my certain word count. I have to put that in now. So that's what it felt like. That's why I'm kind of like, ugh. That's why I felt like it was like a rinse and repeat feel to it. But if you remove those characters that say, hey, you don't need to be there because they're done, right? Because they're being rescued. That's fine. I have no problems with that. If it's continued from the last book going into the first couple of chapters, no issues. Right? You just finishing that off, right? But the way it was ended, again, it felt like, for me, the book was very good, very entertaining, but at the same time, I'm kind of like, I need more. Like my internal neediness comes out every time. I'm like, I need more of this because it's more interesting.
Okay, so let's be real fair here. This is a book review. What more did you need from Craig in this instance? Because I would say it's a very Craig style book when you look at it from the lens of this is not the last book. Because as we were reading through this book, I was always looking through the lens of this is the last book, and I was starting to become critical of it because of that assumption. Once I got to the end and rethought about the book as a whole without it being the end of the series, I kind of changed my tune on it. Is that the experience that you had with it?
I started experiencing this is not the last book in chapter 20. Because the pacing of this book the pacing of this book does not feel like it's the last book. You know what I mean? I
agree. So, but at that point, we had no information about it.
No, it doesn't matter if you have. For me, Derek, like, doesn't matter if you have information. You're gonna have 2 more books at the end. The pacing itself shows that this is not the last book. And around that time, I kind of realized, okay, this is definitely not the last book. We have to keep going.
You didn't know.
Dude, Derek, you can see it. You can feel it. That this is not the last book. The pacing itself
I agree that you could feel it.
I
agree that the pacing was there. I agree. But the fact that you're like, I know, I was the one who researched it and figured it out at the end.
This is why I don't research ahead of time, because I want to feel the book of what it is, right? If a series ends the way it's supposed to end, you know the pacing at the end of the last book.
And this should prove to people that we read that our reviews here are real time. We don't do research. What you hear is our genuine reaction because we don't do research and everything. So
no, we do research, but we don't do research in depth that we don't read ahead of time before that.
People might say, "Hey, they should have known that there was like 3 more books." Come on, we didn't know. We weren't looking into it. No.
When we read books, we have television, so when we read books, because we don't want our reviews to be tainted or colored because there's several more books coming up. Let's just put it out there now. So, but I'm saying that for me personally, around chapter 20, that's when I realized the pacing is slightly different. It's not like a last book pacing. The last book pacing is like, let's start closing loops. Let's start sorting this out. Let's start finishing this off, right? This one is like, oh, okay, there's definitely more coming up. Especially when Scarandum came back and started putting plans together. And after the plan started, we didn't hear anything until Joe and Skippy told Fireball, it's like, yeah, this is our plan, by the way. I'm like, oh, crap. Okay, cool. So you're definitely not done yet. You know, that's when you start realizing even more, yeah, this is definitely not the last book, right? And again, I have no problems with that. It was just... It triggered that this is definitely not the last book in my head. This is definitely not the last book, right? But if you ask me if this is the same I'm saying the wrong words here. If you tell me if this book feels like an Expeditionary Force book, it's like, yes, it is. If you tell me is there something different from this book from the rest of the books, yes, there is something way different because your typical enemies that you had at the beginning are the Mech Salt and the spiders. There's 2 main bad guys, right? So now you have an outsider coming in. And it's like from the outhouse. It's like, oh, cool. So we have a new baddie here, but is the baddie there for the sake of continuing the story, or the baddie's there has actually been there since the beginning? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, well, actually, he addressed that in the book. I mean, technically, he addressed it that 7 years ago they set these events in motion. So he addressed it in the book. But the way I would summarize this book is this is the setup for the next battle. That's the whole synopsis of this book. From the beginning of the book to the end of the book, we're chasing after the outsider to stop him from bringing to doing this. I do want to bring something up about this though, and this is an interesting point that I'm being picky here, and I have a lot of
picky's good, Derek. Picky's good.
I have a lot of appreciation that Craig takes his time to do his research, to focus things around military matters, around military ways, and so forth. And what made me very interested in the way he wrote this, he wrote it that the outsiders brought in one at a time 2 ships over, I guess, a week or something like that. Like they just generated it or whatever. Having said that, though, generally when you're invading some place, you want to have a beachhead. You want to have a place of strength. And the way that he wrote it, it doesn't really do that. Because if you're going to have you would bring in your ships, but they would be protecting your beachhead, which is the gateway, in order for it to bring in more ships. So you'd bring in a flood of your troops or your ships or whatever to hold that position so that you could bring even more in, which would be your main invasion force kind of idea. Whereas what it seems like happened based on the writing is that they got a couple ships in and immediately they flew away, leaving the gate unguarded, which seems not really logical to me from a military perspective. But I just wonder if Craig did that because now there's more perception about there's 2 outsider ships roaming around the galaxy doing God knows what versus them getting the jump on them at the gate and fighting with them and learning about their defenses or their offensive abilities or whatever that might be, instead of moving that into the next book, which obviously is what he wants to do. What do you think about that assessment?
First of all, this is sci-fi. It's make-believe. The way you analyze this actually makes a lot of sense, but at the same time too, you have to look at the technological and the advantage of what the outsider is doing, right? For them to say, we're bringing 2 ships in. Let's just use an example. Use what we have right now. They brought 2 ships in, and that's it. They didn't bother protecting the gateway, right? There's 2 scenarios that we can look at this. One is like, oh, cool. So we'll just pretend that you guys destroy it. We're over here, but theoretically, it's like saying, look at my right hand while my left hand's doing something. Right? Could be a distraction. Remember, there's already several times
that was the decoy, right? Thing, and that was good. Yeah. That was good in the book. He did a decoy. That's great. Yeah.
Remember, they did it. They did it to him several. They did it already at the decoy, right? They told him, hey, we're doing something here, but instead we're doing something in the right hand, but don't look at our left hand. We're trying something here. Now in this scenario, they're like, oh crap, we made a mistake. We've been cahoot. We've been like made a fool of. So we're gonna go to the other one now, right? So now they're like, okay, cool. So we have our guys in, right? So now they're in, but we don't need it anymore. Remember, the outsider that's already here was putting this together for the past 7 years, based on technology that they have now. So he did whatever he needs to do to bring them in. So now the ship came in, probably has better technology to build a brand new gateway.
Yeah, right? I had a thought about that as well. I had a thought about that as well.
Yeah, for you to say that in a beachhead, it makes a lot of sense in a modern in a typical warfare. We're talking about here that, it's like me saying that, okay, I need to bring my people in here to invade my house, but the only tools I have is what I have in the house. So I'm going to chip away on the wall until I have enough opening for my guys to come in to make a bigger opening at the other side of the house for my guys to come in. Right? So you need an outside.
Your analogy,
right?
Well, I mean, if those were from a military perspective, sort of carriers, which are or construction ships or something to that effect, that makes a lot of sense. Maybe they were. Maybe they sent in a battleship and some sort of construction module, because remember, the Outsider built this thing out of, inferior parts that had to cobble together. Whatever is around. So maybe they have something better that came in it. You know what? Might be the case. Makes a lot of sense. I mean,
it makes a lot of sense. It is the case, Derek. I can guarantee you right now that's the case. You can write that down and post it in. It's like, yes, this is Leonard's saying.
So is this next book going to be titled Beachhead? Is that what it's going to be?
That would be the most funniest thing ever. But that's the most logical sense. Is like, in my opinion, that makes more logical sense, because as you said it earlier. It's like you're bringing people in now, so why not secure it, right? But they're using a very inferior technology, and they can bring something else, make it better, right? And doing that makes a lot of sense. Or the other one too is like, could be a distraction as well too. This could be a massive distraction that, hey, look at here.
I don't think it's a distraction. No. That's not a distraction. No. The distraction was the decoy fleet with the kiddies. That makes sense. I don't see. I'm not with you on that one.
I agree. It makes a lot of sense, but it makes more sense if he did it again, but this time bigger and better, right?
I'm not with you. Sorry, man. We're not on the same page here now.
Okay, we'll find out. We'll find who's correct. I can't wait to say, Derek, who's correct? Me. Again. All the time. I think that'll be our next slogan. Who's right again? Me. All the time. I'll make that a shirt for us to use. For you to wear. To me. But, so, what do you think? We've been split overall with this. Our last episode, we both agreed that it ended unclimactically. In this case, do you still agree with that comment?
I think, like I said, this book, if I'm going to summarize it, was the setup for the next book, for the big battle. I mean, we did have battles in this book, sure, great. But this really was the setup. Gateway was the setup. We basically went through the premise of the original, went all the way through. We sort of changed gears midway through, because we were originally going after one thing, then we went after the gate, then we were going after the kiddies, and then so we moved things around a lot in this book. I don't have a problem with that. I like Craig's writing style. Whenever he slows down the book a lot, he tries to put humor in there. He tries to put some character development or some personalization. Usually it's Skippy doing crazy stuff, or it's some sort of subplot with Scranton, which is always interesting. I personally want to see more Jates in there. If Craig is listening to this, I want to see lots more Jates and Dave in there. I like that dynamic, but that's just me, my personal opinion. But hey, he hasn't written the last few books yet, so maybe he'll put it in for us.
Yeah. For me, okay. Last episode I said that is very anticlimactic. I'm going to stick with that comment for now. The reason why is this. It's a very it's like I said before in the last episode, it's a very typical Craig Alanson, typical Expeditionary Force style plot. And I have no problems with it, because this is our book 19. We enjoy the series. We love the series. You got me a bumper sticker, so thank you. and I enjoy it because it's very good, right? No issues with that. But if this book was set up for the next book or for the next two books, great, right? But I agree with you. If you're planning to bring back old characters, let's bring them back. Let's bring them back with a big full force, because Jade Salayer, Dave is great. I want more Scranton, because how Scranton ended in this book, how the storyline ended for him for this particular book, it's kind of like disappointing. I was very disappointed. I was hoping he'll be more. There's a little bit more point of view for him, trying to sort out everything, because typically in some of the older books, he always has Scranton and what's his name there doing their sketchy things, but there's a lot more of them sorting that out and explaining it. Right. In this book, they did it, but Joe was explaining it in his point of view, not in their point of view, and I was a little disappointed with that one because I was hoping that it's going to be the same formula. And to be honest with you, after the last time we heard from Scarandum, I was like, oh, that's it, no more of him. I feel like I was robbed. Right. It's just me. But
I'm certain that Scarandum's going to be central in the next book.
I'm hoping. I'm really hoping.
Kinsta, Scarandum, he set it up, and I don't know if Jace and Dave are supposed to be. Maybe he just threw them in there to throw them in there. We really only had it. I think it was like in chapter 2 or 3, and that was it from them, from the Mavericks. Right? That was just sort of like a little nod to them, and that was all that it was. It was just like a scene that you got, and I'm happy with that for the moment, as long as you're bringing them back for something more substantial. Obviously, I don't think he's going to do another Maverick book. It'd be nice if they sort of intermingle the two groups together for some joint mission of some sort to fight the outsider. I would enjoy that. I think that's logical, to go down that road.
Well, here's the thing, though. You can't have ground pounders going to space fighting a ship-to-ship battle. So having a Maverick there doesn't make any sense. Right. The last book. I'm just saying.
I'm just saying that it'd be nice to have them involved in some fashion for some reason, and I think he probably will. I think the fans love Jace and the Mavericks, and it's funny because I think when he was writing it, he may not have intended for those characters to be as compelling as they are, but he wrote 2 whole books on them. So hey. You did it to yourself, dude.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, though, because the reason why I don't think Maverick's going to show up at all for the rest of the series, if they do show up, will be at the end to say, hey, I'm back. What's going on? Let's go have a barbecue. That's the only time we're probably going to see them, because Reed actually made a comment in this book that was like, we don't need the stars to go ship-on-ship battle. We don't need them. Why do we need ground pounders to do ship-on-ship battle? Right. And if they're going to go fighting against the outsider, it's definitely going to be a ship-to-ship battle. There's going to be probably more ships involved. The Winnipeg's probably going to show up again, right? Because the captain was very interesting, right? And we're definitely not going to see the Mavericks at all. We're going to see the stars for sure because they're part of the ship, but there's a good chance that maybe we're going to see them. I guarantee we're not going to see them in the next book. We're probably going to see them at the end of the series. Right, as a reunion type deal to it, right, and yeah, I think that's the only time we're gonna see them after, because I don't see them coming back at all. We're not gonna. I guarantee you, we're not gonna see them back until the end of the book, right? So, you think I'm right?
I don't necessarily fully agree with you, but I see your point of view.
Convince me.
I see your point of view. I think that it would make sense for him to meld those two worlds together. I agree. I mean, come on. He could come out with something like the Outsiders building a gate on a planet. Maybe that's. I mean, it doesn't take a lot of writing stretch to get to that point where he's incorporating them in. I don't think that's really a hard sell or hard writing in order to do it. What I think is going to be more interesting is to see if he incorporates the what he started in this book. He started a rebellion with the Bosphorok. I think they're going to try to continue to do that because now they're going away from the Kiddies, and so they're dismantling the Kiddies' power base, and they're going to continue to do that. If that's the case, then we can see the Mavericks involved in that, I assume, because that is ground pounding. I can see that. It depends. We're really out in speculation territory. We really are, but I think it's a logical conclusion.
You made a comment there. You made a very good comment, and actually, after you made that comment, my head started spinning with more conspiracy theories and speculations. The question I have to ask, maybe you know the answer, maybe I forgot something or totally blanked out on this. Is the outsider an energy being or a physical biomatter?
No, it's an energy being.
Okay.
It's energy. Yeah.
If it's an energy base, do they go to, let's say, like a planet? Because the only way, as you said, the only way the Maverick can come... Sorry, there's two ways the Mavericks can come back. One, that you suggested that they're going to be battling the kitties in the planet, for example, because of the Boss Rock. Right? Let's just say that. That's one scenario. The other scenario is the outsider is an energy-based being, as you said. Right? If they are, do they actually exist in the planet situation? Because you said it already, that there's potential that they can put a gateway inside an Earth planet's atmosphere, or a planet like in the dirt side, right? If they do, then the Maverick makes sense for them to come in and start fighting, right? But this is the thing I'm I'm having trouble processing, that if they're energy based being in the outhouse, right? Do they have planets there? Right. Is the planet considered just a pebble? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, do you need a physical location when you're energy? No. But however, biomass in general, and we're going down a real dark road here. All that has energy. We have energy and we have electricity in us. I mean, a planet is full of energy. And, lightning, is the most extreme on our planet of energy that comes through, like lightning bolts and so forth. But it goes down as far as just the biofield that we have. We generate energy. We have a small electrical charge in us. So, we're going to go, we're moving into Star Trek territory here. We're going down into Star Trek and Stargate territory where they take over a human being or something like that, because maybe, I don't want
sense, it's like,
I don't want them to go there. I really don't want
every time
to
you
go
say
there.
something, my brain starts saying, oh, that could be a very good segue right there. It's like, what happened if they go into, let's say, the max salts, with this energy being can take over their bodies? That's opening a lot of kind of worms, right?
Here's really what's going to really mess with your head. You only had one outsider. Assumably, these starships have many outsiders on them. And because there was only one outsider before, they obviously that one outsider didn't have the opportunity to do the sort of things that we're discussing, because it's just one outsider. If you just inhabit one person at a time, you can't do much to affect change. But if there's hundreds of them or thousands of them,
millions
it could
of
be
them.
a bit different.
You see what I mean?
A big difference.
Now you can say, yes, I can bring back the Mavericks now. There you go. I think that was the initial conversation we had. How can you bring the Mavericks back in the storyline? Yes, the only way you can do that is if you get the outsider, invade some type of biomatter like the mech salt, and start fighting that way.
I'm going to say this right now. I don't think Craig will do it. I don't think Craig will do it.
I don't think so either. But
I don't think that's his writing style. That's very Star Trek, Stargate kind of, take over human bodies and all that. I don't think that's his style. So I don't think. Do I think like it might take over planetary facilities and start building stuff or whatever? Sure, I could see that. No problem.
Yeah,
but,
I can see that too. So in other words, they're gonna be turning into a Terminator. So
yeah, I know. Well, maybe they make physical bodies. You don't know. If you think about it, but if you think about it, one outsider corrupted an entire Maxolt's fleet. Think about what thousands would do.
That's the thing that I'm kind of in trouble I'm having trouble kind of rectifying my head though, because as you said, the outsider took over a ship and in turn helped the Maxolt on the planet, right? And that's one. When the outsider left, everything fell apart. Like the Maxwell ship stopped working. And that's understandable. That makes a lot of sense. In that moment, it makes a lot of sense that this outsider can take over the whole thing pretty easily, right? The reason why I'm asking this question, the reason why I'm having trouble rectifying this potential issue or potential thing in my head, that if you have an outsider that's this powerful, not even afraid of Skippy and Joe, not afraid at all. His goal is to open a gateway from his world to our world. His universe to our universe, right? He did that. 2 ships came in. As soon as the 2 ships came in, that's going to be... Now we're speculating what's going to be next. But if you look back a little bit back earlier when trying to figure out who's this outside thing is, he's a pure energy, right? You even said it. This one energy can do all this havoc. What happened? There's hundreds of them, right? This is when we start going down a rabbit hole. It's like, okay, you have hundreds of them. How are you going to stop them now? Right.
So let's segue here into what we think is going to happen for the next book now, and what you rate this book as. Let's just do two at once.
Okay. So what I'm predicting for the next book will be a lot more explanation, a lot more explaining. In other words, Craig has a lot of explaining to do. What's going on? What's going to happen next? Because there's like the questions I posted is like, one energy can do this havoc. What happened? There's hundreds of them now. What are you going to do next? Are you going to take over bodies? Are you going to take over robots? What's going to happen next? There's a lot of questions that needs to be answered, right? If you look at it in a geek way of thinking, right? And if the next two books actually answer that and how to find them, that's perfect. I'm happy with that, right? But there's a lot of things that already happened for this book that we already talked about. Is like what happened to the rest of the characters, right? You can't bring the Mavericks because it's not a ground pounder or not like a person to person fight here. We're talking about ship to ship fighting, right? What happened if the outsider goes to a planet, right? What's happening? There's a lot of things that needs to be answered, right? And I'm hoping the next book and the following book will sort that out. That's what I'm hoping for. And to be honest with you, it's a good book. It's not what I expected. I was underwhelmed. So hopefully that will get fixed. How about you?
I think that I wouldn't say I was underwhelmed, but I would say that it wasn't what I thought it would be. And so is that fair of me to give it a bad rating? I'm going to say no. Because we read it in a specific thought process, and then at the end I had to rethink it. So I don't believe that. What I believe is going to happen in the next book is, and I'm gonna do this prediction now. I'm gonna say it because I don't know if I think Craig's gonna do one of two roads. He's gonna do the beachhead thing because I think it's a really cool thing. Because I like that he thinks militarily. Maybe he does a beachhead, right? I think that might be the first option that he goes to, or the second one is that they will try to take over some planet, like the Mexotes one or whatever, to create more weapons that they can control, more of their own ships or something, because they're energy based, right? So I think logically the second one is the more likely scenario, because then we get to bring the Mavericks in to go in and destroy stuff and all of that. But that's my prediction. Either it's going to be a beachhead situation or it's going to be a planet-side battle, I think.
Okay, how do you rate this book?
I'm gonna rate it 8 out of 10, man. I'm gonna rate it 8 out of 10. I mean, and I'm not gonna squawk about it because I'm taking a couple points off because I think the ending was not as impactful as it could have been. But other than that, I'm still a fan, man.
I'm gonna justify this first, then I'll give you my rating. Okay, typically I give you my rating, then I'll justify it. Okay. Do I like the book? Yes. Was I entertained? Maybe. Do I like the ending? Not particularly. So I'm literally going to give this a 6 out of 10 for that reason alone. But
that's pretty low. But
no.
Low rating, man.
But there's a caveat to this, though. All right. The reason why I did 6 out of 10 is because going into it, I thought it was the last book. Right? Knowing it's not the last book, there's 2 more books based on unconfirmed sources. Yes, I'm going to give it slightly higher to a 7 out of 10. Because again, like I said before, it's an entertaining book. I'm a big fan of the series. The ending was schmaybe, right? I was not disappointed, but I was disappointed at the same time. It's hard for me to give it a higher because I was expecting more. You know what I mean? I know it's harsh, but I was expecting more. That's why I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10, not my 6.
Join us next time as we review chapters 1 through 11 of The Shackleton Signal by Joshua Calvert. Thank you for joining us today. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and share a review. We love to hear from you. Send us an email at yourbookmarksinfo@gmail.com. Join us again right here where you left off.